Taylor?
Yes, thank you, my lady.
We can proceed. Thank you. Yes, Mr.
Thank you, my lady. You were busy answering.
Okay, so the first time Oscar and I ended our relationship was because, well, he was on a London trip. He was in New York at the time.
You'd have to speak a little louder.
Sorry.
I missed the last word.
On his London trip, I think he was at New York that day. He had gone on a date with a lady called Anastasia. And that's when we ended our relationship the first time. The second time we ended our relationship was the 4th of November when he took Reva to the sports awards.
I heard 4th of November. Didn't hear the year.
Sorry, my lady.
The year? 4th of November?
2012.
Thank you.
Did he, at the time when he took Reva to the sports award, is it your evidence that the two of you were on that day still in a relationship?
We had not officially broken up at that time.
What does it mean that you have not officially broken up?
About a week before the sports awards, we were in Sun City and we had a couple problems, and over that week there was a lot of commotion in our relationship, so we were still together, but we were having problems.
Can you remember sending him an email?
Yes, I remember my email very clearly.
Yes. And you still maintain, because we will get, if necessary, to that and other emails, do you still maintain that on the 4th of November 2012 you were in a relationship with Oscar Pistorius?
Yes.
Now, where did you live at the time when you had this relationship with Oscar Pistorius?
I was living in Johannesburg in Dame Fern, my lady.
And are you positive that you spent 4 nights a week with him?
Yes, I'm positive, my lady.
And can you tell us about the bedroom, and specifically when the lights are off?
Yes, I can.
What is the visibility?
In the bedroom or the bathroom?
In the bedroom.
The bedroom, are you asking during the evening?
During the evening when the lights are off?
During the evening when the lights are off, it's fairly dark because it's night. Oscar used to keep his curtain open about that wide open because he used to train at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Do you say it's fairly dark, or would you say it's very dark?
I guess it depends what evening it is, my lady.
Well, I'm just asking if you would ever have said to anyone that it would be very dark in that bedroom.
My lady, would he be referring to the bedroom or the bathroom?
I'm asking you about the bedroom.
The bedroom. If all the curtains were closed, then yes, it would be dark, my lady.
Very dark. Is that right? Very dark.
Well, dark.
Could you see?
There might have been some light come in some nights.
Can you say what the positions were of the curtains that night of the incident?
Can I say what the position?
Yes.
I was not there that night of the incident, my lady.
Now, tell me about the screaming. What was the situation? Was it an unhappiness between you and him, and an unhappiness between him and some of your friends that caused the screaming?
On something specific or in general?
Just if it was an unhappiness, or was his life threatened?
No, his life was not threatened then. He would scream out of anger, my lady.
So when you heard him screaming, it was out of anger, but not in situations where he perceived his life to be threatened?
No, my lady.
Is that a fair statement that I make to you? When
Yes.
you said no, I think I understand what you mean. It means that you have not heard him screaming when he perceived his life to be threatened.
No, my lady.
We have a statement, one of disclosed by the state, of Mr. Darren Fresco. And the only reason why I'm referring to that statement is to get a date when this alleged incident would have taken place. And I'm talking about a shot through the open sunroof. According to that statement, and see if it would accord with what you can remember, it was 30 September 2012. Would that make sense?
I think so, yes.
Would you mind, Mr. just to speak up a little bit?
Sorry, of course, yes.
And you spent time that day at the Vaal River, inter alia, with Mr. Pistorius and these friends like Darren Fresco, Justin Navarez, and Sam Gravenstein.
Yes, my lady.
Can you remember what time you left?
I don't have recollection of the time we left.
Would you remember if it was in the early afternoon, late afternoon, in the evening?
From what I can remember, it must have been late afternoon.
Can you remember where it was more or less that Mr. Fresco was pulled over by the traffic?
My lady, I do not know that area, so I can't tell you more or less.
I understand from the information that it had that it was more or less in the vicinity of Grasmere on the highway. Would that ring a bell?
I don't know where Grasmere is.
Can you say if it was on a highway or in a suburban area?
I would not remember, my lady.
So you don't even know if you were traveling at that time on the highway, or that you would maybe travel on roads in the inner city?
We were
other parts of town?
on our way home from the Vaal Dam, so it could have been a highway, it could have been a road, but I'm not sure, my lady.
And how long after being pulled over was this firing of the shot?
From what I remember, it was probably about 15 minutes after.
Where did you go from? Coming from the Vaal River, where did you go to?
We went to a friend of Oscar to sign papers for guns, my lady.
Where was that?
I don't know where the house was, but I can tell you what the house looks like, my lady.
Which area was that?
I don't know the area.
Was it in Pretoria?
I don't think it was in Pretoria, but as I stated, I don't know the area.
Was it in Sandton?
I don't know the area.
But sure, Ms. Taylor, you can at least say it was in the northern suburbs, the Sandton area, it was in the Pretoria area. Can you include or exclude any of the two?
It was in maybe a middle class area, perhaps close to the Vaal, my lady.
Close to the, is your memory it was still close to the?
Close to the Vaal area.
If you say the Vaal area, meaning where the river is?
Yes. Yeah.
So it was not far from the river?
Well, we had, from the river, we'd probably travelled about 30 minutes before we got stopped. Thereafter, I reckon it was about 15 minutes, but I cannot say exact, my lady.
And you say that Mr. Fresco was driving the car?
Yes, my lady.
Why I ask you that the state amended that specific charge put to Mr. Pistorius from the travelling to driving, that he was driving. So someone must have said to the state that Mr. Pistorius was driving the car at that time.
On the way to the Vaal, Mr. Pistorius drove the car, and on the way back from the Vaal, Darren Fresco drove the car, my lady.
I understand that. I've looked at the statement of Mr. Fresco, and so far as it contains the truth, he says he was driving. So I'm trying to think who the other person would have been that would have told the state that Mr. Pistorius was driving, causing the state to amend the charge to amend the word travelling that he was driving.
I don't know what the question is being asked, my lady.
So you say he was definitely not driving at the time, Mr. Pistorius?
No, he wasn't, my lady.
My lady, with the utmost respect, perhaps we have different indictments. The one I have, the amended indictment, count 2 clearly reads, in that on or about 30 September 2010 and whilst travelling in a vehicle with other passengers on the public road district, did unlawfully discharge a firearm.
It was amended in the charges. My lady will find you the place. I asked Mr. Aldwych, drew my attention to specific.
Then we'll have to, I'll also check on the record what I read out. As far as I know, I read out travelling.
May I find the place? Lady, you would remember, and I know it's the wrong record, but I made the first transcript available to you of the defence, the running transcript.
Unfortunately, I don't have it here.
Lady, I can help the state because they would have a copy, and it is to help them page 5, where he says at page 4. That there was an amendment to count 2, and he goes on and he says in page 5, I will then read it again, in that on or about 30 September 2012 and whilst driving in a motor vehicle with other passengers. Now if he means by that it was simply as a passenger, then I will accept it. If it means that Mr. Pistorius was driving, then there's a confusion. You can correct.
There's no confusion. The only confusion could be mine that I read it wrong, but I've now checked the indictment and it reads travelling. I've never meant that Mr. Pistorius was driving the vehicle at all. If it's on the charge, on the indictment, I'll go through the process of having it amended. But I would clearly state that it's never been our intention to say that Mr. Pistorius was driving the vehicle when a shot was fired through there.
I accept that, my lady. It could have been when he used the word driving that it was intended for a different purpose. I accept that. Yes. Taylor. So, and after going to fill in the papers, what happened then?
We went for dinner in Sandton, my lady.
Can you remember where in Sandton?
It was a burger place in, I think it's called Athol Square.
And from there?
And from there, we went back to Justin Devaris's house where Oscar's car was parked.
Do you know more or less what time it was by then?
No, I don't.
Was it early? Was it late? Was it in the evening?
That was the evening, my lady.
And you go to where Oscar's car was parked, and then?
And then Oscar and I went home.
Did you sleep with him that night?
From what I remember, yes.
But you do remember going home with him?
Yes.
I don't mean that you physically interact with him. I mean that you sleep over.
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry.
I remember going home with him. Whether I stayed at his house that night or whether he dropped me off at home, I don't remember. But I'm pretty sure that I went back home with him.
Is your memory of this event, is that good, Mrs. Taylor? Can you really remember this incident?
Yes, my lady.
And it would not be a case that he fired a shot out of anger. He was laughing.
Sorry?
It was not the case that he fired a shot out of anger. It rather seems that when he fired the shot, according to you, Mr. Fresco and Mr. Pistorius were laughing.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
You can answer.
After we left the policeman, Oscar was very angry at the time. Thereafter, they were joking around saying that they wanted to shoot a robot, and that's where they were laughing.
You would, for instance, never ever have said that he fired a shot because of anger. That could not be you.
Yes, that could have been me because he was angry at the police at the time, my lady.
Now, I'm talking about what precipitated the firing of the shot. If I listen to your evidence, we know he was angry after the incident of the policeman, according to your version. But then we know there's a next stage where they were joking, laughing when they fired a shot. So one thing we do know in your evidence as you sit there, that the shot was not fired out of anger, but they were joking.
The shot was fired because they were angry at the police, and they found it very funny to irritate the police, if that makes sense.
Now, how would they have irritated the police?
Because I remember it being shortly after we left the police.
I understand that. How would the firing of the shot have irritated the police?
I don't necessarily think that they were irritating the police. I think out of spite after being stopped, it was.
Now that was the 8th witness, Samantha Taylor, who was an ex-girlfriend of Oscar Pistorius, was provided the High Court in Pretoria with an account of how Pistorius allegedly fired a shot through the open sunroof.
Mr. Pistorius, according to your version, to fire the shot. The one can be because he's angry, the one can be because he's irritated, and the one can be because he's joking and laughing.
Maybe you should ask the accused.
I want to know about your observations, Ms. Taylor, because the accused does not admit this incident.
Well, from my observations, he was angry at the police after being stopped. Thereafter, when they wanted to fire a shot, they found it funny.
Before they fired the shot?
No, they fired the shot and then they laughed.
So he did not laugh before he fired the shot, he only laughed after firing the shot?
Yes.
You positive about that?
Yes, my lady.
So it was not a question a situation that they laughed and said that they wanted to shoot a rope. That would be wrong. They only laughed afterwards.
In a sense, it could be correct because how they went about it was, should we shoot the robot? Should we shoot out the roof? That is how it went down, so...
Ms. Taylor, let's get back to it.
Okay.
You can have different emotions. All I'm trying to find from you, what that emotion was that you observed before the firing of the shot. Now, you've gave various versions, and I'm trying to find out which one must I rely on. Is it the one that he laughed before the shot? Is it the one that he laughed after the shot? Is it the one that he was angry? Or is it the one that he did it because of to irritate the cops?
So after we left the cops, he was angry. Before he fired the shot, he was obviously irritated from being stopped. He then joked around to fire a shot, and after he fired the shot, he laughed about it.
Now, Ms. Taylor, you say that you went somewhere for him to fill in papers
Yes.
relevant to a firearm. Then you went to Ethel to have dinner. And then you went home. He either dropped you off or you went to his house. Or did you go to his house and he may have dropped you off later?
No, he would have dropped me off at home, or we would have gone home together and stayed at his house.
But you are positive that from Mr. Tavares' house, the two of you left together?
Yes.
That you know at least as a fact.
Yes, my lady.
And that helps you, when you look at the overall picture back, to remember to place this incident. That's one thing that you can rely on. How that evening, not ultimately stopped, but at least that you know you were together after leaving the place of Mr. Tavares.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Very positive.
I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
I don't remember being fetched from Mr. Tavares, so Oscar must have dropped me off somewhere.
Well, is it must have? Because earlier, one thing I could understand from your evidence is that you were at least positive that the two of you left together.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that we left Justin's house together.
Can you really remember that day?
Can I remember the day?
The 30th of September.
Yes, I remember him shooting out the gun very, very clearly.
Do you know that Mr. Pistorius was playing the next day, the 1st of October, at St. Andrews in Scotland, on the 1st of October? Can you remember something like that?
I'm not aware of that. I do remember that both of our suitcases were in the back of the car.
You did not go with him.
I did not go with him, no.
I'm just trying to work out on your version that you leave together and him playing golf at St. Andrews the next day.
Okay.
Can you help us there?
Well, then he must have dropped me off at home when we left the house.
And be in time to fly overseas.
I don't know what you're asking.
Yes. Well, let's look at it again. Can you remember if Mr. Fresco was driving on that day fast, or was he driving the average speed, or was he driving slowly?
He was Mr. Fresco.
Yes, because you said he was the driver.
Yes, he was driving fast.
Do you know if it was very fast or just...
Very fast.
Was he stopped because of it?
Yes.
And what happened there?
As I stated, when he got stopped by police on the way home from the ball, the policeman asked him to get out of the car. Oscar had left his gun on the seat. The policeman cocked the gun because he said it was not allowed to be on the seat. And thereafter they found the bullets, they put the gun back together, and we drove away.
And it was not too long after that he fired a shot.
Yes.
Were you sitting behind Mr. Pistorius that day or behind Mr. Fresco?
Behind Mr. Pistorius.
Ma'am, I'm coming back to this. You're correct, and I'm going to the sleeping. You're correct that where he normally slept was on the right side.
Yes.
Do you know, if you know, that shortly before this incident he was receiving treatment for his shoulder, that caused him to sleep on the left side of the bed because of the injury?
Before which?
Before the 13th, that evening of the 13th of February, shortly before.
I would not know about any of that.
Yes. The state would have all the photos. We have a photo with him with bandage or the strap on his shoulder. The state made available WhatsApp messages where he was complaining about the shoulder. So what I put to you, although it is so that he generally slept on the right side as you explained it with the bed, that day of the 13th of February and the day before he slept on the left side. Can you say anything about it?
I was not there that
Yes.
night, so I cannot say anything about that, my lady.
Do you know, and surely you should know this, that what Mr. Pistorius always did with his legs, he wanted them to be ventilated.
By meaning?
He wanted fresh air on them. He would put fans on them, or when he can put them outside, he would do that or near a door.
Not that I can recall, my lady.
You say you cannot recall. Do you say it's not so?
I don't think I saw him ventilating his legs, my
Yes.
lady.
You don't think, but you're not sure.
Yeah,
You're not sure.
I'm not sure.
Yes. And when he does not have the prosthesis on, or did not in your case, what was his mobility?
Sorry, please repeat.
Could he walk well without the prosthesis on?
Meaning on his stumps, my lady?
Yes.
He could walk on his stumps, but he often balanced against something.
So because he had a difficulty in balancing himself.
Yes.
He was a person very scared that he could be attacked. And he was very conscious about it.
Is that a question?
Yes.
Not necessarily.
Why?
I mean, the fact that he carried a gun with him for safety reasons means that he was aware of what he could face, but I don't think he was scared.
Could you remember in April 2012, when you were pursued, the two of you, by a white C-Class Mercedes, and he had to jump out of the car near the security gate where he lived?
Yes, I do recall that.
What
although
can you recall?
I recall it being a black BMW.
But you can talk about it. Maybe it's another incident as well. Tell me about the black BMW.
When we arrived at his estate, he jumped out of the car with his gun and held it to someone's window, and then they drove away.
There's a car following him.
Yes.
And both of you were very concerned, very scared.
He didn't seem very concerned, my lady.
Were you scared?
I didn't really seem too concerned either.
Were you not concerned that a car was following you?
No.
Didn't care about it at all?
I didn't feel like I was in fear, if
Why
that's
not?
what they're asking.
Why not?
I don't know.
The telephones, that he always take them to bed, or most of the times?
And the cell phones.
The cell phones, man.
His work cell phone he would leave in the kitchen, my lady, and his personal cell phone he would take to bed with him.
Always?
Always.
Every time?
Every single night.
What Mr. Pistorius will say is most of the times he would do it, but not always. Sometimes the telephone would be in his bedroom, but not necessarily next to his bed.
No, I think he kept it next to his bed.
That's the interesting answer, I think. So there's uncertainty, otherwise you would have said as a fact.
If he went to the bathroom, he would take his phone with him to the bathroom. If he went out of the room to maybe the kitchen, he would take his cell phone with him. He kept his cell phone wherever he went. So if he was in bed, he had his cell phone with him in bed.
I'm talking about the previous answer when I asked you, and you say you think, which tells me in itself that although you believe that's what he always did, there's some uncertainty. It could not have been always. It is the general approach by him, but not an absolute rule. How else would you explain the think?
Well, he charged his phone next to his bed, so every night he needed to charge the phone, and that is where he charged it. So every night he had his phone next to his bed.
Yeah. So his phone needed charging every night. He never charged it during the day.
Sometimes in his car for 5 minutes.
Can you? Go to bed. Mr. Pistorius will say to the court where he kept his firearm at night would be if he's with not at his residence, he would put it with his legs, but at his house he put it underneath his bed where he's sleeping, on the side that he's sleeping.
Mr. Pistorius never kept his firearm under his bed, my lady.
Never, or never when you were there?
Never when I was there.
Well, that's a dispute. He will come and give evidence about it and explain where he kept it. He did not use his cell phone every night in bed.
He would use his cell phone at least 4 or 5 times in bed.
4 or 5 times a week. Is that
Well, no, in bed during the night.
every night?
Every night I stayed there, yes.
So would every night would often now become every night?
Yes. He used his if we were in bed together, he would have used his phone during the night.
What do you mean? He would have used his phone.
Sorry?
Did he use his phone or would have used his phone?
He did use his phone, my lady.
If you tell a court that he often used his cell phone during the night, would that be incorrect? He did it every night.
Every night that I was in bed with him, my lady.
Why then, if that is correct, in your evidence in chief, you said he often used his cell phone during the night.
With the utmost respect, my lady, it's semantics. Every night is often. I mean, often is every night. So it includes every night. Does not exclude every night. So it's an unfair question, I object.
Lady, that's a language lesson that I don't understand because it's not true.
Well,
Often is
I
good.
also have the same opinion with Mr. Nell.
My lady, often means
Often can mean
frequently.
5 times, 4 times.
I agree, my lady.
Yes.
I fully agree, but not every night. If you want to say every night, it's really easy to say that. If you say often, what you don't say is that it's every time. It means it's
Well,
frequent.
I would agree with you if you had asked, what do you mean by often?
Can I follow? What language do you speak?
English
And often, what does it mean to you?
often means a lot of times, my lady.
I'm satisfied with that. A lot of times, not always, a lot of times. Is that correct?
Okay. Yes.
So what you said to the court, that he didn't do it always, but a lot of times he did it.
Every single night that I was in bed with him, he would have used his phone, my lady.
Any reason? I will argue that, don't worry, Taylor. Taylor, how did you feel about the breakup with Mr. Pistorius? Did you?
In November,
Well, the last time we have some dispute that we'll come back to when it was. But how did you feel the last time? How did you feel about the breakup?
I was upset, my lady.
You were upset with him. But you want a short adjournment?
We'll take another shot at that. We'll adjourn for 5-10 minutes.